John Saltis, Bingham boy, who has just limped his way into the basement of Bill Frost's home in the heart of Sugar House, Mill Creek, who knows, the Ted Bundy crime scene area from the 1970s, all kinds of mayhems taking place in this area, including that was Utah's first, as far as I know, scone cutter location. That was a crime in and of itself. I'm limping because, did I say I was limping? Because if I didn't, I'll mention it. I was limping because I pulled a back muscle yesterday, or disc, so I'm not having the best of times, which only reminds me that as a Bingham boy, that I'd probably be dead if I stayed in the mine, spike and rail with Ron Yengich, our Bingham boy partner, but how I lived this long with all these ailments and without that heavy duty work all day long is a mystery to me. I don't know how I did it, but I'm barely getting by, and as I look across the table here, Ron, a fellow spike mauler and tamper extraordinaire on the track gang, he looks tired. So I think we're both having kind of shit days. What is it?
Yeah, I am tired. I was as strong as I ever was as a human being those summers. I remember.
I peaked at 19.
I mean, I literally
strength-wise.
But after that in my life, I lifted weights. But I would go back to school to play baseball, but to get an education into Kentucky, and I would be back there in the fall. I would be lean and fit and
tanned,
and really tan, and when we had some fall baseball practice. Occasion. We didn't do it, a lot of it, but it was just awesome because, when you're swinging a spike maul or you're tamping ties, your arms, and I've never been a really big guy, a heavily muscled guy, but your arms and your wrists are so strong.
Oh man, all we did was arm wrestle for beers afterwards in the bars, right?
And you would in batting practice just hit line drives, and It was great. And those days are so far past, I barely remember. But the reason I'm tired is that I had a bad night, and I had a lot of nightmares. And
you taking like melatonin or something? What's
no, I'm taking trumpetonin.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, let me get you some CBD,
which wakes you up in the middle. But anyway, I had a bad dream. I dreamed I was in bed at my old house up on Glenmere, not far from the King's English, when my first house that I owned, and that would have been in 75, 76. And I literally dreamed that I was there, and I woke up, and it was wake up to normalcy. And what normalcy for us was at that time, quite literally, was that things are going to move pretty much the way they'd moved for quite a while. And now, of course, we're at the tag end of the Vietnam War, and there were those issues. But
if I lived in that area when you did, I'd have tagged along over to Smokey Records and bought some.
I did, and
he had the neatest little shop there.
I know that, and I remember that, and went there, and also to the Japanese market down the street where I shopped, and also to Mill Creek Market, which is up the street. But I thought, and I really literally had this dream, or a version of it, obviously adding to it, but it was when the LDS Church was politically ascendant in our lives, politically, culturally, and financially in all other ways. And that was a fact of life for us. It didn't make this place a bad place. In many ways, it made it a good place. And I dreamed that I wandered down to Temple Square. I wandered down to the city. And I was
definitely a dream then.
I was at Temple Square.
This was definitely a dream if you wandered down to Temple
Well, I
Square.
did. And
ambitious dream or a nightmare? What are you having here?
Well, I'm going to tell you. And there was the same wall that was around Temple Square, to keep riffraff like us out. And as I woke up and I was thinking about it, and I realized that I was intended to be made to feel like an outsider by that wall. That was a feeling that I had at the time.
That was the meta message of the wall.
Yeah, and
right.
Yeah, and this happened in the dream, that there was a kind of a tornado that came through, and it changed everything. And the change was that I was thrown into a different world. It was kind of like, and you said this on one of our podcasts, it was like The change was like when black and white beginning of The Wizard of Oz became color.
Right.
Except this color was that it was orange, and that it was an orange glow. And when I looked at the temple itself, there was this kind of orange brick road that led to Washington, D.C. And then I heard...
This is your nightmare now or 1976?
No,
nightmare?
I was in 76, but it's the nightmare that I was having.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I mean, I don't psychoanalyze this because this would be problematic for everybody, but
Were you flying?
No, but the point...
That's sexual.
But the point was...
They say.
That it... Well, I won't go there.
I never fly in my dreams.
I won't go there either. And, I mean, and I wasn't flying with you. Which
good.
Would be but it made me think about where that group of... Yeah, I wasn't part of it, but I admired the beehive nature of it. You know, the
industry.
All of that, the industrial attitude. And it kind of switched into now time about how those good people, and I heard this echo, and it was Mike Lee talking, and he was talking about how angry he was that Donald Trump and his folks, a guy named Pete Hegseth, had disrespected his church because they had indicated that they were no longer considered to be Christians because they had been eliminated from being chaplains in the military because they weren't Christian. And it made me, as I woke up, think about the true change that came here and came here when Donald Trump took office. And that is this. Those good people, and I mean that, their attitude, the good people of those good Mormon folks, my friends. Yeah, I felt like an outsider, but I never believed that they would fall in the religious war battle and join in with a group like Pete Hegseth and his pastor. His
pastor's crazy with the capital K.
And his pastor is from Moscow, Idaho.
Oh, that makes sense.
Moscow, actually, as they pronounce it. But his name is Doug Wilson, I think. And the group that he runs, the acronym is CRIC, which I think is...
C-R-I-K?
No, it's C-R-E-C, but CRIC, okay?
Okay.
CRIC. And I think the point of this stupid intro is these good people that are honest, hardworking people. We may disagree with them theologically, but good people made to help make a good place for you and I to grow up with. We talk about that on this program. They followed these people down this orange brick road, and they were willing to sell out their morals, their ideals, even their religious values for this guy and others like him. And now when they find out how evangelical Christians really feel about them. Kreck and others have said, even after this kerfluffle about the chaplainship, that Mormons aren't Christians, that Mormons don't belong. And as one of Hegseth's other people that he admires said, they all are going to hell, and there's no doubt about it. Okay? And so my point is about this dream, which is partly true, is that that's what happens. And so here's what I want to say in response to Mike Lee, who's been doing a lot of complaining about it. And as Donald Trump has promised him, and Hegseth has promised. You should have stood up for other people over a period of time.
Well, look, Mike Lee is, he's the abhorrent Mormon, face of Mormonism. Cox is right with him. And there are many, many others. Trevor Lee, I mean, come on. These guys... Like you said, we've talked about this before, and I come from a weighted position of having both Mormonism in my grandmother's lineage and Greek Orthodoxy in my other grandparents' lineage my whole life. So I have teetered back and forth, and I've said shitty things about both sides when I was a young kid. I could never, if we had Instagram back then or Facebook, I probably couldn't run for political office, some of the shit I said, right?
You couldn't run it.
Anyway, yeah, you're right. There's also the criteria of qualification, and I don't bear that. But, we always said stupid things when we were young, but as you get older, you kind of build the appreciation differently, and I had to be very careful because it was on both sides. And through my youth, and in fact, one of the good friends I had in my life later on told me, he says, you Orthodox, everywhere I look, there's an icon, there's a something of biblical, and there's Jesus. And he goes, Jesus is a secondary feature of our religion. Now, this is before there was the movement to get rid of the word Mormon, and because my grandmother was a Mormon. She wasn't just a Mormon. She was a Mormon.
Yeah,
and very much so. So there was a proudness of being a Mormon in her world, and there definitely was among many of my peers at school who made it very clear. I'm talking about junior high and high school primarily, early after graduation, who made it very clear that Mormons were different. And in fact, you were wrong in your religion, and they were better at it than you. And they didn't embrace the word Christianity the way we did. I remember, girls at our school, I never wore one much to school, but guys would wear a cross, or girls would wear a cross, the girls would wear it outside their dress, and they'd get mocked. Hey, what are you doing there with it? What is that thing for? And they're mocking that very Christian symbol. So it was very kind of like wide-eyed to me when this change, when they embraced evangelicals a little bit to become more mainstream and more pronounced into the mainstream by linking in to probably the nationalist movement of Christianity that couldn't be any worse for anybody, especially Mormons, and yet they tied in and they hitched their horse to that wagon.
That's kind of my point with this, and that is that, and in doing so, they forsook, if that is a word, I guess it's past participle, forsake. They forsook their own history and the prejudices that had been brought to bear on them. And the other thing with guys like Lee doesn't perceive the idea that his faith is important to me in this respect. He should get to believe whatever he wants. There shouldn't be discrimination against having Mormon chaplains in the military because they're a Mormon soldier, all right? But I never heard him when Donald Trump openly mocked the Pope, and J.D. Vance and others made fun of him and thought it was just a good idea to say that Donald Trump, who doesn't know anything about the Bible, is theologically superior to him. I didn't hear him, and you never will. He never
did. Look, from the Pope, he was nothing on that one. When on Good Friday, Hegseth said, by the way, we're not going to celebrate Catholic Mass today because, for whatever reason, to piss on the Catholics, he was silent. Lee was silent. That's what I mean. Yeah. He was silent on the Pope. He was silent on that day. He was a critic. In fact, a very nasty critic of when the two politicians in Minneapolis were murdered in their homes. He, in fact, put disparaging commentary online like, tough shit, they died, the Democrats get what they want. His own lineage, the Lee lineage that he derives from was John D. Lee. And in Mormon, and what's called the Mountain Meadows Massacre. And they, at that time, well over 100 years ago, practiced a method of getting rid of the people you don't like by murdering them and all then lying about it. So when this guy all of a sudden takes umbrage at Hegseth, it's like, shut up, Mike. He said, he's just feeling so awful because, geez, we're Christians. How can you discriminate against us? You know what? It shouldn't be the role. Absolutely. Hegseth should not be in that position to be the hall monitor of what passes for Christendom or not. That was a total bullshit move that he did. Total bullshit. He, all the Christian segments he left out, doesn't even speak to the Muslim and everybody else.
Right.
He lumped all Muslims all together. This is just base ignorance on his part. But so there's a point that anybody of the LDS faith could make that says, hey, this is stupid, this is bad, this is wrong. They can do that. Mike Lee can't, because he can't make the case that he's even practiced the most very basic tenets of Christianity, let alone Mormonism, which I don't know if that's trackable and it's okay to do, to be a good Mormon and do the things that he's done and still claim to be a good Mormon and a good Christian, and yet he's showing umbrage?
Yeah, well, that's...
Wrong guy.
No,
wrong guy. I'll take it from any sister on the street, any brother on the street, any missionary on the street that's saying, hey, this is wrong, and support that. But Mike Lee, get out of here. No, what a dog. That guy is just how many bad people are in the world, in the United States, in politics? He's right up there. He's the upper echelon.
Yeah. Well, that's what we get, and that was kind of the idea that I guess came to. I was really bummed by the idea that these are the little stupid battles that people like Hegseth are bringing to the fore. And they're doing things without any consultation or without any knowledge. And at the same time, Mike Lee is really pissed off about that, and John Curtis is. Curtis in a more reasonable...
Curtis is
in a more reasonable...
Way, he is a little bit more reasonable.
But what gets me is you want to talk about this stuff with a guy whose next venture is, he came up with it yesterday, he wants to knock down Penn Station and put up a golden palace. They already got a picture of what it would look like. He's going to turn the...
in New York.
In New York.
I thought he doesn't like New York, and I do believe New Yorkers hate him, given what I saw the other day.
We'll get to that. But they've got the final vision of his triumphal arch. He's knocked down the east wing. He wants to make basically a large thoroughfare that runs through the arch that will destroy part of the beauty of the Potomac River. And the only thing that I can next think of is that we're going to wake up one morning and the Washington Memorial is going to be an extremely large golden penis. And it is going to say in Latin, because, I mean, that's the only thing. Yeah, I mean, you put Latin on monuments, and and it will be the Trump penile monument, and it will say in Latin, "Meus major est quam tuus." Mine is bigger than yours, and then right underneath it, it will say, "Et quam Georgius." And also Georgia's, because that's where the fuck we're going in this country, and we've got people that are in power that could speak to him and say, Don, forget the arches, go to McDonald's to get your burgers, forget the arches, don't mess with Penn Station, they hate you in New York, and you can pick up on this, you destroyed an evening event and got what you deserved, and so stop it. But Mike Lee, and this is my point with Mike Lee, when that or if that happened, he would find a way to excuse it and then go back to wherever he hides out until something else that impacts only him and the people that he loves, then he'll come out and bitch about it.
In Greek, he would call it to megalitero butso. You can look it up.
We will look it up. Tell me that is. I mean, that isn't at least a possibility.
Well, it is anything's a possibility with this guy, because he just doesn't he has no let's start with the premise again. I've been not on his team since the beginning. I am not deranged. And on any issue when it comes to Donald Trump, okay. I am not deranged with this guy.
I'm with you.
And I think that there's a delusion. It's a Trump delusion syndrome, not a Trump derangement syndrome, that this guy actually has some kind of redeeming quality. He has zero. He's never shown to have any redeeming quality ever in his entire life. And it's not going to start now. It's exacerbated in the second term because look at who's not around him. His wife, she's totally absent. His children were at least around him in the first term, all three of them. They're absent. They're just raking in the billions and doing the shit and buying islands in the middle, off the coast of Albania. The somewhat sensible staff around him from Kelly and Brennan and many, many others, as much as you may or may not have liked them then, Look at the replacement cast.
No, they were semi-adults.
This is just awful. Everybody he's put in there, just somebody's going to back him up. So is it possible that he would do that? Absolutely. He looks out the window and thinks, what else can he destroy and put his name on? And he says this damnedest thing. Oh, they want to put a promenade behind the Lincoln Memorial, and they want to call it the Trump Promenade. It wasn't my choice. They want to call it this guy. So, that's what we are up with. And by the way, we're supposedly fighting a war and have all these other issues. And this guy, going off and sleeping at ball games and nodding off and farting publicly, and calling that leadership. I don't care. I don't have anything.
Where is Mike Lee on any of that? Where's Mike Lee?
No,
let me just finish. Where is Mike Lee when it comes to the Iran war? We haven't heard from him. We don't hear from him or other people in the Republican Party from Utah when we ask ourselves, this war was going to be over in a day. We knew that was bullshit. We've got a deal. We know that's BS.
38 times he said that the war will end in 2 days. 38 times in the past 100 days. John, it's trackable, it's countable. Look it up, MAGA. 38 times he said it's over.
So
or
when is it that anybody in that party, anybody, will step up in the well of the House of Representatives or the Senate and say, when, Mr. President, are you going to tell us the truth about what we've done, and how much is it going to cost us in money?
Look, Ron,
let me finish.
That question can't be asked.
When are you going to tell us how much this is going to cost? You can't tell us in lives because you can't predict anything. What is it going to cost in human beings killed, and what is it going to cost us to buy our way out of this? Because every deal you're involved in, Mr. President, is a deal where you end up buying your way out. When is somebody going to do that? When is Mike Lee going to have the anger and frustration that he'll do a video like he did, walking around, talking into the video, and being so upset about that? When are any of these people going to do their goddamn jobs?
Well,
Tell me that.
Mike Lee's video was pretty performative. He just was like this little wussy, angry boy. And then to the very end, he finally said, this is not, this is despicable, whatever the word he used. And that's how he ended it. And it was pretty lame. Because ultimately, when Donald Trump or whenever the change was made, it wasn't big. Nobody credited Mike Lee for that change. They credited who's the radio guy? Beck. He got the credit for it. They're calling Trump at 2 a.m. or whatever and talking him through getting it done. So Mike Lee is an incompetent.
He's also our senator. He's a senator.
He's worthless.
And
he spent
this is part of where we get is just here, because I don't disagree with you, is we go, and who gets credit for making Donnie Orange change his view? And who gets credit for this? And that person said to him privately this. Well, that's not how you run a democracy. It isn't. It just isn't. How do you run a democracy? You run it by the people that are elected going and doing their jobs, and it isn't just to kiss the behinds of other people.
Mike Lee is secretly, really happy with this. He doesn't favor the term democracy. Start with that. He doesn't. He's got some kind of little constitutional book in his side that he's not a. He's tried to say over and over and over again, democracy is not so great. Okay, so head the other path, go to authoritarianism or whatever you want to call it. But the thing is why even have senators like Mike Lee at all? Why have them? If you don't need them, if they're worthless, they're just taking a paycheck. And if the biggest time that he can find after 4 years of this, 2 years in this term, 4 years in the prior term, to finally get angry, and it's because he took umbrage at was something that the crazy man in the Pentagon did, Pete Hegseth, and leaving the LDS, membership off of a list. That angers him.
So he got angry about something that impacts his beliefs.
When the rock is in his shoe, then he's angered. So, otherwise, forget it.
I do have a thought there, and that is when we talk about totalitarian governments. So you started reading the book that we mentioned. It's by Andrew Bayless, It's Sparta, the Rise and Fall of an Ancient Superpower.
Yeah.
And you've begun reading. I haven't. I've glanced at the book. I've got it, and I've got it in my fat little hand, and I'm going to start reading it tonight. Is it a good book? Is it worth reading?
The pages I've got through, I'm 1 or 2 chapters in or something. I'm not going to tell you it's not a real tedious read like some tomes that are historical are, but it's also, it's not incredibly lively. Just being honest, it's not. It's historical, and it tells how these little city-states became major city-states and some of the tensions back and forth. Sparta, one thing that's interesting in there is that for all of its current glory, how we admire the mighty Spartans and stuff, there's truth to the warrior spirit of them. But Sparta itself, I've been. It's not really, it's like going to Tooele County maybe, Grantsville or something. It's not compared to Salt Lake City. Athens had these wonderful temples and all this kind of stuff, and many, many places throughout the city-states did. Sparta is just kind of there. So it makes you wonder, how in the hell did they build this out when they were just, they were a loose cabal of like villages and stuff, but they...
Is it worth reading?
Yeah.
To, in this sense, to look at the fall of an ancient superpower. I know you're not through the book yet, but is it interesting enough for people to read it and go, all right, we'll go back and do what we're told in this podcast we should do as Americans and learn a little bit of history, not only our own but others. Are you learning things in it? Can you learn things in here that says we're reliving mistakes that they made in Sparta?
Anytime you read history, you learn that. And yes, it's in that book.
Okay.
The place I always end up in this is that Americans do not read history. Many cultures don't, but it's really, really getting god-awful here. Americans are not very history-oriented. They're very present-time-oriented. It all began in, let's say, the year 2000 oriented or something. And anything past that is old news. Otherwise, they would know the history of Donald Trump, right? Or otherwise they would know what was the repercussion of, Reagan policies or Bush or Clinton policies or whatever. But we don't.
No,
right now. Here's one right now. In a few weeks, we're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country. And then I think tomorrow, is it tomorrow or 2 days away, is Donald Trump's birthday at the same time.
Oh, God.
Well, okay.
I don't have that in my date
Okay,
timer.
but you and I were old enough, and Bill, I presume, was old enough to, kind of go in the 1976 bicentennial.
Oh, I remember that.
That was like, wow, every day was something cool for all Americans. And we couldn't wait. And it was an Olympic year besides. And there were the Winter Olympics. I'm trying to think who the skater was that did so well in that one. It wasn't Dorothy Hamill. It might have been. And then, the summer, that Bruce Jenner won, the whatever it was, the decathlon that year in 76. That's when the Olympic years were, the winter and the summer were the same year. We created heroes, and they were celebratory. All America was behind this kind of stuff. Flash, 50 years forward, and that whole sense. I'm reading stuff all the time of people going, man, I don't even give a shit this time.
No.
They're not into it because of how it's been usurped. Nobody knows so many Americans are growing up without knowing the joy of what unity really was and what passion for our country really was, what patriotism was, because so many of these feelings were usurped, and that's the word I would use, by maliciously, ambitious people, politicians that swept it all in like all Democrats are evil. All Democrats hate the country. All Democrats are not patriotic. And that's bullshit with the capital B, and yet we've come to believe that that's the way it is. And a lot of younger people absolutely believe it.
Well, I think that the tragedy is, again, I've harped on this, and that is people don't know history. But most importantly, people aren't willing to go, if that's the case, I'm going to learn it. Because if it's Because if it's not on TikTok or whatever,
we got the easiest user tool to learn now with social media and a search engine ever, and we don't use it that way.
And so people aren't willing to do it. But I honestly, I'm looking forward to reading this book. I'm troubled by the idea that I joked about having a nightmare. I did have a nightmare last night, and it did relate to politics, but I'm troubled by my own attitude. And I really mean that. I mean, I have no excitement about this anniversary of this country coming up. And I had some feelings about Reagan and that celebration as well. There was some politics in it. A friend of mine told me at the time, you just have to live with it. They won, man. They won. They're gonna gloat a little bit, let it happen.
You're talking about the 1776.
Yeah.
That was Ford was the president. 1976.
In 76, I'm talking about when Reagan was president. When we did the
we boycotted the Moscow Olympics one of those years.
No, then I'm screwing this up. We had a celebration when Reagan was president about something related to the birth of the country. I can't remember what it was. I don't know. But anyway, I have no real excitement about what's coming up.
That can't be.
I'm talking about me personally, and I'm the only one that knows this. I know how I feel about seeing the development of democratic republics that goes back to guys like John Locke and even Robert Bellarmine and others, people that I admire as philosophers, and Algernon Sidney, and these guys that faced down real empire builders and wrote about things that talked about how we shouldn't have power in the hands of one human being. And they wrote eloquently and beautifully about it. And I loved it in school, and I loved it when I became a lawyer, and I learned about how these documents that we have, the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence and the Civil War amendments and all of this stuff, our Bill of Rights, and I honor the Declaration of Rights of my home state, Utah, because those people face the same thing down. I can't get excited about this, and I can't get excited about it because we have people that live and have power who not only don't know the Constitution, but they don't care to know it because it's all about them and it isn't about anybody else.
Gerald Ford had 2 assassination attempts on his life within a month, something like that. And he was not known as the brightest president ever, but he mocked it, that he was not a very smart man. His biggest mistake probably, in retrospect of how it affected all of us all these years later, 50 years later, was pardoning Trump.
Pardoning
Nixon, I'm sorry. Had he not done that, maybe there would have been a repercussion today of such behaviors. Let that be. For all the failings of Gerald Ford, mocked from, Saturday Night Live, and by the way, they weren't threatened with being canceled for mocking Ford or any other president.
He appeared on the program, didn't he?
So George Bush did, I believe. But, always falling down, that kind of stuff. Chevy Chase, falling, doing that kind of stuff. But there was no threats against Saturday Night Live to take him off the air, and these guys aren't funny, and I'll get my FCC guy in here to close him down. This is a whole new country now, with repercussions for anybody who don't behave in a certain way. It has nothing to do any longer with love of country or politics. Nothing. It has all about to do with a guy that knows how to wield power, knows how to follow through on a threat, knows how to, get his way in a room. These are pretty good skills. Unfortunately, they're used in bad ways. Was it, who did I read about this morning? Somebody that said after meeting Trump that they got some kind of dirt on him and he better behave. And this guy, like it's always that. Well, this anniversary, which we could have looked forward to in a big way, 250 years, would have been great. And it started out great because there was a bipartisan funding to make the America 250 anniversary a big deal. And in the past year or whatever it's been, it's changed from America 250 to Freedom 250. It's changed from a bipartisan, let's all hold hands, celebrate, and watch fireworks, to a grift show with a WCF, arena in front of the White House. And how much money can I sack out of the American people? And if you don't go along with it, then there's that arm that says those Democrats, Bill Maher did this the other night, Democrats that are backing out of this are just showing how unpatriotic they are. And it's like, Bill Maher, you're a weasel. What a weasel you are to say something like that.
Yeah, but Bill Maher never was on a strike.
No, he never was.
He never was on a line where you go, no, we're not going to work anymore because you're screwing us. Okay, that's what the deal is here.
Well, you're right.
And Bill Maher wouldn't get that because Bill Maher has always just simply been a failed actor that got a good gig that he was good at, and he ran with it. But he shows more and more. It's not just about being consistent.
Well, when you
let me just finish.
Sure.
It's not just about being consistent with what you argue or what side of the political spectrum you're on. It's about being honest. Fuck Bill Maher. Bill Maher has never suffered for anybody but Bill Maher. And face it. And so when we talk about guys like him, you go, well, wait a minute. I wouldn't expect you to understand a boycott, Bill, because you don't care.
I don't even think this could be called a boycott. I think the people that are backing away from him are saying, wait a minute, I'm all in with celebrating the United States. I am a patriot, no less than anybody else. I will not take the stage on something that's a political aligned event. And I think that's actually pretty patriotic to behave that way and say no to that.
You know who is patriotic? The people that when they showed Trump on the big screen at Madison Square Garden booed him openly. The people that had signs when his cars passed by that had a lot of things to say about how they felt about him, and when he left, it booed him too. That's patriotism in the face of power. We don't have that now because it's, as you said it, and it's true. What's in it for me, and what can I get out of it?
Anybody can cheaply call themselves a patriot by flying a flag, by setting off a firework and condemning somebody else. That's not patriotism.
Or wearing a hat.
Wearing a hat and feeling part of a larger group. Anything like that.
You know,
the ones that are really the ones that in that book you're going to read about people who are lost. Their names are lost to history, but their actions weren't. And their actions are no different than anybody today. Somebody who stood up, took a stand, may have cost their life or something, but you don't know their name anymore. But they did it because it was the right thing to do, not the easy thing to do, and not the profitable thing to do, not the thing to do because everybody else did. You did it because it was right.
Can I read you a quote?
Yeah, sure.
We must scrupulously guard the civil rights and civil liberties of all citizens, whatever their background. We must remember that any oppression, any injustice, any hatred is a wedge designed to attack our civilization. That is on Franklin Roosevelt's
Monument in D.C.?
Monument in D.C.
That's a pretty cool one.
It is. It is a great one. And the thing is, Roosevelt had his own issues. People stood up to him on the court packing plan. He wanted to do what Trump is doing now, by executive order fire people. Democrats and Republicans both pushed back on that because there were really people who understood that is not what we do. You're not king, you're the president, and we don't do that. And that's why for me, and I really mean this, the 4th of July, the 3rd of July, which is also an important date, I don't see myself celebrating them this year. Generally, I do something. Last year, we went up to Bingham. I won't be there either. It's just, well, I don't want to encourage the Mike Lees or the Donald Trumps to say, I see your vision of America and I approve of it.
They don't say that, though.
I don't care what they'll say.
They don't say anything like that.
I will say what I say, and that is boycott it. Boycott it. Don't go to the parades. Don't do it. Stay home, or if you do, go and in a silent manner indicate your displeasure with it because it's killing us. And so with that, I'll give you the last word, and then I've got a new feature that we're going to do. It's going to be called John and Bill's Quiz of the podcast.
Well, I don't have a last word on that. We've said it before. Mike Lee's a bad guy. Can't sit any more plain. We can't sit any more plain that the LDS people of that faith, suffered a lot when they came here. They don't need the bullshit of Pete Hegseth or anybody else. But here's my problem with that, though, is that the LDS people that I know have been very much in time slow to respond to authority and push back on it. Maybe that's institutional. And so they're slow in this case too. And I know that many of them are of the best natured people, good people. It's not about faith in this case. It's not about what they religiously practice. They're good people. But somehow something inside of them slows them down when it comes time to make a stand. And they don't for some reason until it's a long time. The water's gone under the bridge. And otherwise, we wouldn't have guys like Mike Lee representing them and then having the audacity to speak for that entire faith when he's the worst picture for it. You wouldn't allow, Al Capone to speak to the Catholics of the world and say, "I'm a good Catholic, and you should live the life I live."
I'd let him speak to it. I just wouldn't listen to it.
Yeah, but you could speak it all day long, but you'd have a bunch of guys saying that's bullshit. And that's not happening with Mike Lee. He gets away with the bullshit here because there's a tendency not to condemn within the party, not to condemn within the faith, not to condemn within the religion. And that silence is damning. It's damning. We're not making progress by electing people like him. We're not making progress by trusting people like him, because beyond trust. You can't have it. And that what that means is across the country we're electing all kinds of Mike Lees and other sub talented people to every elected officialdom until there's no resistance in the House or Senate.
Well, that seems to be where we're headed, and we'll see what happens in the midterms. I am distraught over my side of the political spectrum.
Listen, let me cheer you up.
Do I get to ever finish the sentences?
No.
All right. Is there a rule in here, Bill? Bill's not listening to either one of us. Go ahead. I forgot.
I'm trying to cheer you up. I'm going to cheer you up right now.
You're not going to cheer me up.
Yes, I am.
There are no rules, by the way.
There are no rules. Bill, just put that down there.
There's no rules.
Oh, no rules whatsoever.
Okay. Let me cheer you up.
Okay.
You're a Democrat.
I'm kind of these days.
Well, all right. You were raised a Democrat.
Yeah, and I still...
And you should take pride in the fact that the Democrats are the most talented, conspiratorial, have more power than any person or party has ever imagined. And you do have that, and you need to embrace it.
Do I look like a chimney today?
No, but look.
Because you're blowing smoke up my ass.
Look what just happened. The Democrats are so good at blowing elections up. Look at that election in Los Angeles last night. It's still going on. Maybe they're still getting balanced.
I see what you're saying.
So the Democrats have so much power that they've rigged every election since the 1980s, according to Donald Trump. And they've rigged the president elections. They've rigged Senate elections. They've rigged mayoral elections, all of it. But the Democrats must be stupid because they're so good at rigging, they keep on rigging it so Republicans win.
Yeah.
How does this work?
Well, okay, I get what you're saying.
Now, are you happy?
No.
See all the power that you have?
It was hyperbole, and I do feel like a chimney, and I didn't blow white smoke. So,
okay.
So we'll take a break. We've got a few minutes left. So here's the quiz. This comes out of nowhere, and I want you to take it serious, okay? Bill is a real musician. You love music. And speaking of time, this song, I'm going to ask you about two songs. They came out. You and I were young. Bill was still probably...
embryonic.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. So, better song and why? Better song and why? Sunshine of Your Love or Stairway to Heaven?
You want me to choose one?
Yeah, I'm saying which one. I'm asking you to pick one. And why?
Okay. Well, Stairway to Heaven is obviously the super band there, Led Zeppelin, and it's a 7-minute tome or whatever, however long it lasts, one of the better guitar solos in music. An epic song, which I happen to have loved.
Okay.
On the other hand, Sunshine of Your Love, for three guys to bang out that kind of music, Cream, that whole album.
They were a super group.
It was a super group, but they were short-lived. It's a great song, but I think over time, Stairway wins.
Billy?
Compositionally, I'd say Stairway to Heaven. But as far as impact and getting right to your brain, that pleasure center there, Sunshine of Your Love, is very direct blues song is what it is, really.
Yep.
See?
This is a fun game.
No,
You're smiling.
I am. That was great. I mean, so... the opening guitar licks, whatever they may be, of the great blues, rock and roll, fusion, whatever, those are the ones that capture you. And so I just heard those two songs together, driving down here. And I was not a big Led Zeppelin fan, although I was a fan and I have their albums and such. I loved Cream.
Ed Brass is a big Led Zeppelin fan.
Yeah, I know he is. God bless his little heart. He's a great guy and a great lawyer. Just a wonderful guy. He's my little brother. That's what I call him. But when I think back through my life, I have trouble deciding which one. And I would have thought this was easy when I asked myself this question, because it would have easily been Bill's answer, Sunshine of Your Love. But in reality, they are so good, and they both allow the people that are in those bands to be really who they are.
Well, each band had a great guitarist, each one had a great drummer, each one had a great bassist. And it ends there because Cream only had 3 guys.
Yeah.
But
Sunshine of Your Love is easier to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could sit down and play it right now.
Nobody can sing Stairway to Heaven except Robert Plant then. That's why he's singing with Alison Krauss now.
Yeah.
So both of the lead guitarists come originally from the Yardbirds, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a tie there, and so this will be a continuing feature of this to get us off of occasionally our rants about Donnie Orange, and but that was the one that came to me today.
You could have phrased that like, name me 2 songs that Donnie Orange has never heard.
Well, I could have done that.
Because those would be right at the top of the list.
I could have done a lot of things, but that's the one I did, and you guys passed the test.
You could have done Ave Maria versus YMCA. Those are Trump's 2 favorite songs.
Is that what he says?
No, it's just what he plays all the time.
I wonder what...
At his events.
I stupidly asked, you're a musician.
Yeah,
stupidly asked this question of the great Gabriele Toroni, who is the assistant musical director at the Madeline Choir School and also internationally known organist. I asked him what was his favorite version of the Ave Maria, and he looked at me like I had just offered him cat poop from the litter box, and he said to me, which version of the Ave Maria? But what he meant was that has been written and done by so many historically great composers that only an idiot would ask that kind of question. And
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you how Donald Trump would have answered.
Oh, fuck. Excuse my language. That's the third.
All right. So along the line that you did that one, how about in our era, 2 Dustin Hoffman movies? And how'd you phrase that? Which one was the better one, or which one?
Oh, which one? I just pick yours.
Pick yours.
Pick yours.
Yeah. The Graduate or Little Big Man?
In my heart, there's no. I love both of those. I went to The Graduate with a young lady that I went to college with named Jenny Barnes. Really nice woman. I hadn't thought about her for a long time. I love that movie. I was surprised by that movie, and I loved the whole thing. I loved the whole movie, still do. But Little Big Man is key to my life. I mean, I read the book, I've seen the movie dozens of times. I've watched that movie with grandkids for them to understand.
Well, here's how it was phrased. We came about this accidentally, but was it a couple of years ago, a British journalist, I think, or somebody said, and they were with like the Better Christian Network TV or something, and they said to Donald Trump, what's your favorite Bible passage? And he goes,
sure.
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. Well, what do you like? What do you like? Live your life around the Old Testament or the New Testament? Both.
Yeah.
Well, and he meant it. This was the classic moment when Christendom could have come around and coalesced and said, "Hey, he's not one of us."
No, he's not.
Because every time I turn on the TV and I hear these guys, Bill, what was the TV show? The Righteous Gemstones. Even on the Righteous Gemstones, everybody in the cast was quoting Bible verse from front to back. Everybody in the South in the evangelical movement knows Bible verse. They've all got Timothy something posted on their on their websites. They've all got John 3:16 or whichever one, Paul, whoever it is, everywhere. But you ask Trump, and no, they don't have an answer. And it's like
Trump has Ringo
315. Yeah. So
one after 909.
How come he couldn't answer that? And all of those guys could have just said at that moment, "Whoa, even my children know this answer," and recognize that he's not such a hot Christian after all. Let alone even if you didn't know his background of how he mistreated people from the time he was a young boy, killing spiders and throwing rocks at kids. All his life. And what part of the Christian movement or the Old Testament movement is he emblematic of? It's a zero.
Actually, that's not true. He's emblematic of
which bad guy in it?
The rich man in the parable of Lazarus. But I don't want to mention him again.
Don't have to.
But I do want to say
that point.
It's a great point, and I want to make a point. Little Big Man is premised upon the book Black Elk Speaks, Distantly. And if anybody that hasn't read that book by John Neidhart, it's really a poem. It's intended as one, where he tells, really for the first time, the story of the Plains Indians from the vision of the Plains Indians, and puts it into context of the America of that time. And it is such a great movie because of that. Dustin Hoffman is awesome. The guy that plays George Custer is great. But what's even better is I had read Neidhart's book, Black Elk Speaks, and it's part of my journey, a big part. But that movie took me back to it. And that's the great thing about art. Great art. And I understand most people would say, just like Gabriella Tironi, Dr. Tironi told me, basically, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't consider myself an artsy, craftsy guy. But to me, those are the kind of things that you can build on. And so when you talk about history, talk about literature, you talk about this book about Sparta that I'm going to start tonight, those are the things that you open your eyes up to truth. What doesn't open up your eyes to truth is somebody that just pounds their chest and says how wonderful I am. What is the vision that you get that strikes you as going, I get it now. I understand a little bit better. We don't do that very well anymore.
Well, it takes somebody to have a modicum of curiosity to reach that point. And not going to belabor it, very much harder, but we're talking about somebody in the White House who doesn't have curiosity. He has action. And people like action. But they don't like they don't know the reasons why he does the things he does. They just admire the fact that he takes action. He's taking down the right wing, he's taking down the west wing, east wing, whichever one it was. East wing, right? Action! He's going to have a drone airport on the roof of that place, and so it's impenetrable. Yeah, okay, that seems like a target to me, but it doesn't, the reflecting pond, there's the one, that's the one that's going on right now. It went from $1.8 million, now $20 million or something, and it was all about reflection. The whole point of it, uniting the Washington Memorial with the Lincoln Memorial and the commonality of those two things and how you ponder and the greatness of those two guys is now a Motel 6 swimming pool because it's a prettier color and all that stuff. There's no curiosity. It's just and people go, cool. Let's build a giant arch in front of the entry to and have a wrestling match here, or boxing match or whatever it is. Did you see the guys that objected? A couple of those guys I had no idea. I'm not a fan of WCW and WCF, so I don't follow it, but there's been a couple. One has been like the best fighter of them all is no longer allowed to be there because he said something critical of the administration, so he won't even show up.
Well,
they kicked him out of it. This is the cancel culture. The people who cried about cancel culture, canceling, and then the other guy comes on the other day and says, I'm going to fight, but you know what? This Trump guy, he's a dope. And he was very articulate about it. He's a college-educated kind of guy that really backs it up. And I don't know his name. I just saw his statements and, watching this guy speak. And, man, he was good. And, man, it's just doing things to do. It makes no sense.
Well, he became the pool boy in chief. I mean, that's really what it is. He drained the pool, and they repainted it. And that's a big deal. It's also a shiny object to wave in front of people so that take their eye off the ball of the problems that exist. The problems that we were having economically, and the problems that there are people dying in that war. Not a lot right now. Well, that's not true, because Iran just bombed Kuwait or wherever. I'm sorry I don't have it right, but they're attacking their fellow countries that support America, and people are dying. Little kids are dying, old people are dying, non-combatants are dying, combatants are dying, and we did this for no reason. And the deal that he's going to end up coming up with is the same deal that Obama had, or worse, and he's going to declare victory, and all of these shiny objects that he dangles in front of people will take their eye off the ball. And what is the ball? The ball is to run a world where we take care of one another, and we don't kill people simply because it seems like the thing to do on that.
Isn't there a game that people, when you say the same thing or something to end a sentence, everybody says it the same way?
That's not a game I played.
Well, me neither, but I've seen it. And there's something that's drawn my... You always, like the Chinese... Oh, it's like this. Like at a Chinese restaurant, when you open your fortune cookie... And it says all this kind of stuff. And tonight you're going to have the greatest adventure of your life with Ron, and then you add the words "in bed" or whatever. You always add the words "in bed." Did you ever play that game when you open your? Well, it wasn't my fortune cookie. So that's what you do. You always say "and in bed."
Okay, I get it.
Okay, I think from now on that we need to continue that and say anytime that you talk about Donald Trump, everybody begins to say the same thing at the end of every time you mention his name, and we'll all get past it.
And what is that?
And he's mentioned 3 million times in the Epstein files.
Oh, I like that.
And you say that over and over and over, or some variant of that. And he has 34 rape convictions, and he has bankrupted 6 companies, 7, 10, and he has. But I think mentioning every time all these distracting things he's doing, just mention, and he's mentioned.
How many
30
times?
million times? I think well, there's 3 million files. 34,000 times is what I think it is. 34,000 times in the Epstein files.
No, I didn't know the number, but I mean, that's a great way to do it. Maybe that will make me happier.
Yeah, there you go. So every time somebody, and you're talking about the guy or somebody is, and everybody just continue, then we'll get the message out and continue to get out, because that's the one he's trying to bury.
Yeah. And maybe that also, I'll stop talking to myself about him if I have to add that every time.
Yeah, because now it's a burden.
Now it's a burden. All right, well, I just snorted at my own joke, and that's disgusting. So let's end this, Bill.
Okay.
God bless you all. Take care. Be safe.
When do we come back? Is it after the 4th of July?
No, we come back in 2 weeks, which would be, I don't know.
I don't even know what day it is.
Is
it 8th today or 9th today?
Today is the 10th, isn't
June 24th.
Oh!
We come back the 24th.
That's a great day in Utah history.
Okay, why?
Because that's when the pioneers came into the valley.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Or is that July 24th?
July 24th.
Oh, this is what it is the month prior.
July 24th is after July 4th.
June 24th is when they
So we have just
that's
told.
When they left. No, that's when they left Laramie, Wyoming, and that's the day.
That we just have.
We have one more month to go.
We
to get
made
to
it
Salt
clear
Lake.
why you shouldn't listen to us with that. Okay.
The 24th of July. Mark my words. I swear to God, I celebrate it somewhere. It must have been Laramie. Could have been farther into Nebraska somewhere, along the Des Plaines or somewhere. They're celebrating the 24th.
Of June.
Because the Mormons had one more month to get to Utah, and it was a big deal.
Okay.
And my lineage among them.
Okay. And I think he made that up. And so let's end with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
But if it proves to be right, if you do your research and find that, I will apologize to you publicly.
It will be. It's a lie. But here's what's not a lie. Here's what's not a lie. I got to say goodbye. And Trump is mentioned 34,000 times in Epstein files, and there are women victims who are going without justice today.
Yep.
And every day.
Vinny.
You mean.